Welcome to the Karen Kenney Show.
Hey, you guys, I am so super duper excited to introduce you to my guest today. So, he's not only one of my favorite people on the planet, he is somebody who has helped me to get out of pain so many times over the years as a yoga person, as an athlete, as somebody who moves a lot. So, I'm going to give you the official bio, and then I'll tell you a little bit about personally how I know him, why I adore him, and why he's a guest today. So, Brett Copeland is the founder and clinic director of Performance Health Spine and Sport Therapy. So, he's here in Concord, New Hampshire. He's a super duper smarty pants and a sweetheart of a guy. He really knows his stuff. He really knows his stuff. And I have trusted him for many, many, many years, not only with the care of, parts of my body when I am in pain, aching, my muscles hurt, my joints hurt, I did something stupid, which you might hear about on this episode. Um, Brett's always been somebody who helps me to help myself. He studied exercise science at Appalachian State University. He's a graduate of New York Chiropractic College in New York. He's not only a licensed chiropractor, he's also a certified strength and conditioning specialist. He has extensive training in soft tissue modalities. And this is things called like AIT, which is called it's active release techniques. And he also does something that's called dry needling, which is fantastic. And the last time I went in to see him, he actually did both of those things for me. He has a passion for diagnosis, treatment, and rehabilitation of low back and hip dysfunction. And I can tell you that I have benefited from him being super smart in these areas. Like I said, he has helped me to get out of pain. Specifically, I can remember in my shoulder, in my hips, and in my lower back, right? These are the places where I sometimes do things, whether I'm lifting or running, or I've done something in yoga or whatever. He has dedicated so much of his time and energy studying and implementing strategies to get his patients out of pain quickly and then back to their active lifestyles. When you look at his list of continuing education, one of the things I love about my brother Brett is that he is incredibly curious and he is a lifelong learner, and he takes his service of other human beings and helping them to get out of pain quickly. He takes it really seriously, and he not only can do it from a professional point of view because he is so studied and he has been doing this for a wicked long time and he has an incredible reputation. He's also been there as an athlete. So he grew up as a soccer kid, played soccer his whole life. And then he also has completed numerous endurance events. And we're talking things like 100-mile endurance runs, Ironman Lake Placid. I mean, he's a busy dude. He likes to go running. He hikes 4,000 footers with his daughter. He shoots hoops with his son in the driveway. He's just really, really passionate about his work and the health and wellness of his patients. And, he's always striving to provide the most recent and evidence-based therapies available. And like I said, he's a lifelong learner in his field, and he is constantly attending postgraduate courses to not only expand his personal knowledge, but to professionally better serve his patients. When I was the yoga teacher, some of you may or may not know this, but I was the yoga teacher for the Manchester Monarchs professional hockey team for like 5 years. And whenever one of the guys, and they had their own doctors and stuff like this, but I would always, this is how much I trusted Brett, is that I would say, if you guys ever need help, this is the guy that I would refer you to. And he's also who I would send all of my triathlete yoga students to. People who push their bodies hard, people who do more than the average bear, you know what I mean? And need their bodies to be working well, to be not just working well, but to be working in the most optimum way possible. I have always entrusted those people into other people's, into Brett's care. And it's a big deal when you can really trust somebody and you can give a referral without even having to think about it. When you just know, hey, I trust this person and I know that they're going to show up and pay attention and do the best that they can to be helpful. And one of the other things, I guess one of the last things I'll say about Brett is that he's one of the most humble people you will ever meet. There is something that is just so endearing, that quality, you know, when somebody is brilliant at what they do. And you guys have heard me say this before, like from in other things, like walk softly, but carry a big stick, you know? So Brett walks really softly in the world, but man, does he pack a punch and carry a big stick in terms of his knowledge and how many people he has helped. And whenever I do a post about Brett on social media, the comment section just blows up. He is adored and beloved in this area. But the great thing is that if you're local to New England, I mean, the great thing about New England is you can get to several states really fast. So if you're in the surrounding area and you need help with some ongoing pain or some chronic situation, and you just like at your wit's end, and even beyond that, just able to help in all kinds of way. Brett is an incredible, and his team, an incredible resource. And so I just can't speak more highly of him. And I really do hope that you enjoy this conversation. You guys know I only have guests on maybe like 12 times a year. So that's some coveted real estate, meaning I normally do solo shows. So, you know, if I bring somebody on the show, they're either somebody that I love, somebody I'm wicked curious about, or somebody that I deeply respect and want other people in the world to know about them and their work. So you guys, I give to you my friend, my brother, one of my favorite people on the planet, Dr. Brett Coapland. Hey, you guys, welcome to the Karen Kenney Show. I am so excited. I am wicked excited to introduce you. You heard the intro, you heard the bio, all about my beautiful friend, Brett Coapland. And you've also heard me talk about why I'm excited to have him on the show. But one of the things that I didn't say, but that I love about Brett is one of the most talented yet humble people that I know. And he has never, this is his first time doing a podcast. So I'm super duper excited that he's doing it with me, that we're getting to have this opportunity together. And he's one of my favorite people on the planet. And I just have no doubt by the time we get to the end of this episode, you're going to see why. So first of all, Brett, thank you so much for saying yes and for being on the show.
You're welcome.
So let's just dive into something. So here's something that I always do at the beginning of the show when I have a guest. So, you know, it's kind of like when I'm asked to speak on a stage or to go do an event. When you come out, you know, they've introduced you. And what they always love to do is they love to introduce you as you are now, like with whatever accolades you might have or why you're the quote unquote expert on stage, right? And that's all great. Like read your bio, super fancy and amazing. But what I'm always wicked curious and interested in is like the little weirdo kid who grew into who this human being is. So
Sure.
In my work, you know, there's a process I called your story to your glory. And what we're often doing when we're doing podcast interviews is we're starting at the glory piece. And I'm always interested in the story piece as well. So just let's start off. Tell me a little bit about you. Like, where did you grow up? Did you have siblings? What were you like as a kid? Like, were you weird? Were you shy? Were you athletic? Like, what was your deal as a kid?
So I guess I was born in Sacramento, California. My parents were originally from Concord, New Hampshire. They met each other in high school at Concord High.
Oh.
They got married right out of high school. Dad went to the Air Force for Vietnam. So he was eventually stationed out in California, came back, loved it out there. And so they eventually moved out there, had me. And then, so lived there until I was going into 6th grade. And then my grandmother was sick with MS pretty bad back here in New Hampshire. And so my parents were like, it's time to move home. So we picked up everything and moved back to New Hampshire.
Are you an only child?
No, I have a sister.
You do. So how is she older, younger?
She's 4 years older. She just turned 50 2 days ago.
Fantastic. Yeah. Happy birthday, Brett's sister.
Yeah, right.
So you do actually have, so I lived in California for like 8 years. You totally have a California vibe too. You have that very kind of like laid back, like just easygoing kind of a thing. Now, I don't want to say you don't have bursts of energy because God knows we're going to talk about that, like endurance and vents and stuff like that. But you do, you just kind of have a nice, easy vibe. It's one of the things that you're one of those people who, I said before that you're one of my favorite people. Not only because you're charming and you're really talented and all those things, but my nervous system, when it gets in the field of your nervous system, it just kind of goes like, just kind of like
That's how
relaxes.
I feel about you.
Is it?
Yeah.
Aw, but it's true. So like when I get to be in your presence, even if it's just on video,
Yeah.
it's just always like ease and joy. And I have no doubt it's because you I would say even whatever people believe and call it past lives or how you come through in this lifetime, you have probably always had that kind of like healer or helper energy about you. So like when you were a kid though, like how does one decide, right? Like, oh, doctor of chiropractic. Like how does that happen? So like did you play sports as a kid? Was there any kind of inciting incident or something that made you lean towards this field? Like, how did we end up here as a chiropractor, not only as a doctor of chiropractic and other things? We're going to get into all of this, but you're also the founder and the clinical director of your own place, right? The performance, it's always a mouthful for me. The Performance Health, Spine, and Sport Therapy in Concord, New Hampshire. So like, how did we go from kid in California back to your parents' homeland to support your grandmother? To now all of a sudden, like here we are. So give us a little bit of those gap years. How did this, your passion for what you do, like, was there a moment when it occurred to you? Like, how did we end up here?
It definitely evolved, but started early. So I remember going with my mother to the chiropractor. So my mom was super natural, very healthy, right? And so she would go to this guy once a month and get the traditional chiropractic adjustment. The interesting thing is that he was blind. This chiropractor was blind.
Okay, wait. First of all, I'm fascinated. Now, you just hooked me. You just hooked me big time. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
So, and I just remember going with her and having that experience and thinking, this is pretty cool. Like this is neat. I was young. I was little. So I thought about it for years. It was kind of always in the background. I must have been like 7, 8, 9 at that age. Yeah. And then over time, like, going through middle school, high school, things change. And then, so I was pretty athletic in high school, played a lot of soccer, got hurt a lot. I was that guy that ran through brick walls to score goals. And so always getting banged up. And so there was a guy in Concord that I would go to, who's, I don't think he's practicing anymore, but he would help me out. And I think that really is what triggered it. So then I went to school and then I realized, oh, physics, chemistry, organic, like I can't do this. It's too hard.
So when you say school, do you mean high school or college? Where are we at?
No, undergrad school. Yeah. So it's all pre-med basically to get in. And so I tried, but I think I was just goofing off too much and I didn't have the commitment, So I thought, oh, this is too hard for me. I can't do it. So I took a couple of years off of school, eventually went back, got serious about it and plowed through.
Well, here's what's so, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just saying, and then going into chiropractic college, then it evolves even more, right? Because at first I was like, oh, I just want to be your kind of general chiropractor, working with nutrition and all this other stuff. And then once I got into chiropractic college, it kind of changed into like that sports performance kind of.
Yeah, there's a couple of things here that first of all, I have to go back. Let's go back to the blind chiropractor for a second, because I can't stop thinking about this. And first of all, so I'm a certified hypnotist, right? I think I told you that last time I saw you.
Yep.
So here's what we know is that kids between the age of like 0, like still in the womb, right? That third trimester up till 7, they spend a predominant amount of the time in the brainwave states of alpha and theta when we're most impressionable.
Sure.
That's why my line of work, when people always say to me, are you only work with adults? It's too bad kids could really use this. I always say, well, technically I'm working with little kids in adult bodies who are dealing with this stuff, because so much of what gets imprinted on us when we're young. So I can imagine you being around that age, going into this guy's office. First of all, he's helping your mom. What's not to love about that? And then like you said, something stuck with you, something impressed upon you, and it was always in the back of your mind. So I find that fascinating. But I would love to know, after all these years, now as an adult looking back, do you think that him not having sight made him more gifted in maybe listening to his clients and what was wrong or what they're reporting, and also made him more tactile with his hands? What do you think?
100%. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. He had a lot of great questions, and I was little. So I remember it very well. I don't remember conversations and things of that nature, but I remember him like working on her and just, not really looking at her, right? Just kind of gazing off. And I don't know, it was crazy. It was crazy.
I would say it's energetics too.
Yeah.
I would say there's some energy happening there. And I'll say this, when I lived in California, I hung out with a guy who was a chiropractor, and he did like the old fashioned adjustments and stuff like that. And he used to do this one adjustment on me. You'll probably know, I don't know the name of it, but he would like put me on my side and then do this thing like, and my hips would, and every time he did it, I would just burst into laughter. I don't know why. It made me crack up laughing. I don't know if it was the sound it made, the way it felt, but I think there was something that was released every time he did that.
Yeah.
And we were friends where he'd be like, shut up. Like he tried to put his hand over my mouth because I was making too much noise. But I was like, it was the most incredible feeling when that tension in my low back and my hips like got released. So I just know, we know the energetics of the spine. We know the information superhighway. So I'm just fascinated by this gentleman kind of reading your mother's spine like Braille, and like just getting his hands on her body. So I just could not let that opportunity pass. So, okay. So let's fast forward. So here we are, because you're not just, and I don't mean just like, oh, you're just a chiropractor. I don't mean it like that, but you're also a certified strength and conditioning specialist, a coach, right?
Yep. I have that certification. I don't do one-on-one coaching with that. I have in the past, but I think it was a credential that I went for that just gave me, like, if someone was looking at me as a potential person to see, they would see that credential and be like, okay, this guy at least has an idea of what he's talking about for strength conditioning, right? Because it's a huge part of what we do. It's a huge part of rehab. Like, it's big.
Yeah. So I want to touch on that, because for me, so much of the work that you do in your line of work, and I want to get into the fact that, again, not just a chiropractor, not just a strength and conditioning specialist or coach. Also, you have, when I was looking at your bio, right, I'm like, okay, I'm going to have my friend on, but I still got to do my homework and do this right. I do.
Right.
But when I go and I look at you and your quote unquote list of credentials, I see not only a shit ton, you guys, like, so just so you know, bro, I don't know if I told you this also goes on YouTube. So there's video and audio, but you guys, I want you to see, look at all these trainings beyond, right? Like, look at all these trainings. Okay. But there's a pattern in these trainings. You clearly found several things that light you up.
Sure.
Which we can talk about, like AIT, dry needling, back and hip function and mobility, getting people out of back pain, which we're definitely going to talk about on this. Right now, we're just kind of building the foundation of why are we listening to this guy? Like, who is he and how did we get here? But I clearly see these places where you're really passionate and that you lean towards. So you just said that. You're like, okay, then it started kind of going more into like working with athletes. But you also have done some really athletic endeavors, like endurance races. You've done Ironman Lake Placid. So how did kid who played soccer, turn into, I'm going to go fucking run 100 miles? Like, what is that about?
Good question. Yeah, I don't know. So I had a good friend of mine who I grew up with. Actually, when I moved to New Hampshire, I met him in 7th grade, and we've been buddies since. But he always had this thing in high school, like he would get on his bike and go ride from Derry, New Hampshire to Alton just for fun. And I was like, oh, that's kind of crazy. So eventually we went to the same school together. He jumped into this 50-mile race Did some training for it. It's a trail run.
At what age are we talking?
So that was 19, 20 years old, something like that.
Okay.
And so when you do these ultra marathons, you usually have someone that crews for you, right? So it's a 50-mile point-to-point race. And let's say there's aid stations every, I don't know, 4 or 5 miles.
Mm-hmm.
But you can have your crew show up at like every other, right? So I would kind of jump along and I'd see all these guys, women come through. And that was exciting. I was like, oh, cool. I would love to do something like that. It's such a great adventure, right? That you get to go out in the woods and run and suffer a little bit.
When you say I would like to do something like that, you mean not just crew, you mean like be the one suffering.
Yeah, I was like, I don't want to crew this. I want to actually do it. But that was my first introduction, right? Like helping him through this race.
Yeah.
And so the next year, I think it was the next year, maybe the year after, it was 1999. My first race ever was 50 miles.
Wait. I want to let that. Let's just let that sink in for a minute. So you
it wasn't a smart thing. It wasn't the best idea, but
remember the last time I was in to see you, and I always do these posts after I come and see you, because the shit that gets me in to see you is not usually quote unquote these big injuries. It's stupid shit that I'm doing to myself. So you always say to me things like, yeah, here's your diagnosis, right? These are my words, not exactly what you say, but you're like, let's not go from 0 to 60. Okay. Let's not go from sitting around a lot to going out and running like 20 miles a week. Right. So here you are, first race ever.
And that's exactly what I did. I did that. Exactly what I did.
Yeah.
So it was a 12-hour time limit.
Oh my God.
And I think my time was like 11 hours and 30 minutes, somewhere around there. So it was like a struggle to finish. And I was a mess. Cramping. I crossed the finish line and everything seized up. And yeah.
So a mess. Wait, let's put it in perspective.
Yeah.
So when do you hit the first pain cave? Or as I say, did you see Jesus at the turnaround? Like at what point do you start suffering in your first race, 50 miles running? And the terrain is what? What's the terrain?
Yeah, I think that it's around, like you start getting uncomfortable around, because it's all trail and you're up and down mountains. I think that you start figuring out like, okay, this is gonna be a long day around 17, 18, 19 miles. You're starting to get sore. You're not even halfway through. So that's when you're kind of like, shit, what did I do? Why did I do this? This is crazy. So you start feeling sorry for yourself. Then eventually you come out of it, right? And then you go back into it. And you come out of it and you go back into it. It's just this roller coaster of emotion.
So so basically what you're battling out there, yes, the elements, the terrain, but it's really your own mindset and how you talk to yourself and how you think.
100%.
So did you think of yourself as capable? Let me put it this way. Were you surprised and like, this is harder than I fucking thought it was going to be? Were you self-talking like, come on, man, you can do this? Like, what's your inner voice? What is your inner critical voice? Like, is it more like, I always talk about like when I'm running, like when I run here around my house, it's so hilly, right? So I have this one hill I run, Oak Hill, and I say, man, this is when I had to David Goggins myself. Like I had to Goggins myself, I say. So like I start talking to myself, and then like I'll pull in a snippet of Sean Snow, and like I just start pulling in the people who have helped me over the years, right? So what's your internal voice like when you're like, I need to get this done? After the whining, do you positive self-talk, or do you don't be a pussy? Like how do you talk to yourself?
All of it. Like, I think that there's never a question of quitting, right? But there's a question of feeling sorry for yourself because you heard it's painful. And then you're like, why did I sign up for this? This is dumb. But then once you're in that bad spot for a while, then eventually it's like, okay, let's go. Like, stop being a poos, right? That's what I say.
Yeah.
Don't be a poos. Let's get it going. Like, let's rock. And then eat some food, drink some water, maybe slow down just a little bit, get it together, and then keep going.
Now, you weren't married at that time, right? You and Jen weren't together yet. So this is when you were a young guy. Okay. Yeah. So, and then you go on to do like triathlons and stuff. Here's why I think it's so important and why I love this about you and why I love that you got your certified strength and conditioning specialist thing too. I always feel like if you're going to be serving that kind of clientele, it's so much more helpful, first of all, for them to feel understood by you.
Right.
And also a certain amount of respect. Like, this guy knows what it's like to be out there doing an Ironman. Because I think that's how you kind of came into my world, is that I was working with all these triathletes as a yoga teacher. And, you know, your name came up. And then I don't know, like, I don't know how I ended up. I just remember being in your first office and being like, I like this guy. I don't even know if I came in for an appointment. I don't even know what it was, but I met you. But I met you through this community of people who do damage to their bodies consistently.
Sure. Yeah.
And you were like one of the go-to guys. Like, you're kind of legendary. Every time I come in and see you, which is rare, right? Like, I come in, I'm more like, wait till I'm like, yeah, I can't fix this on my own. Time to go see my buddy Brett. Time to go see my brother. But I kept hearing your name come up. And then every time I do a post about you, the response in the comment section of my Facebook feed, people just, dude, just receive this. Cause I know they fucking love you. They fucking love you. People are like, Brett has saved me. Brett's gotten me back into action faster than anybody. Brett's the best. I mean, like, the love festival that happens when I post about you, which I totally understand why, because I know you and I love you and adore you. But there's also because I think that first of all, you love helping people.
Yeah.
You're wicked smarty pants. You're a lifelong learner. You can tell that you're passionate, not only about what you do, but about helping people. And this is important because we're gonna shift now to professionally, and I want to hear all about your work. But I won't put it on you. I'll put it on me first. I have been to a bunch of different chiropractors in my lifetime. I know who operates from the same kind of energy that I do, which is, I'm not interested in creating codependent relationships.
Right.
I'm interested in pointing back to your own inner resources and saying, you know, like when Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, at the end, they say, you know, you've had the power inside you all along to go home, like to do whatever. So I have been in situations where you go to see them, a chiropractor, and no matter what your issue is, they've got a plan. And it's like 3 visits for 3 months, no matter what. Or there's people who do like traditional adjustments. There are people who got the little thing where they click on you.
Sure.
There's like biostimulate, like there's so many things. My sense with you has always been, how can I, first of all, you are an incredible listener. You pay really close attention. You have all these qualities that I love. Okay. You pay really close attention. You ask wicked good questions. You have us move and assess. You're paying attention. You're assessing the situation. But it seems to me your goal is always to get us back to doing what we love, get us out of pain, help us to help ourselves. And I just feel like people can feel the love that you have, not only for the work that you do, but for the people that you serve.
Wow. So yeah, how do I comment on that? For me, like the codependency, I think you need to have some empathy a bit for the people, whether they're going to do an Ironman or whether they are just looking to walk 1.5 miles, right? Like, I see people who have, you know, people in their 70s that have really bad low back pain that can't stand for more than 5 minutes at a time. So it's the same goal, right? Like, and you're just looking to get them, to teach them what's going on, explain it, and what they can do for themselves. Yeah, the last thing that I want is someone to be dependent, right?
Yeah.
And give people energy to do the right thing. And that was it's a funny thing. Like, when I started practice, my goal was to my thought was like, okay, I'm not a salesman, right? You know this, right? I'm not into that. So I'm not going to try and talk people in to coming to see me. So it was like, how am I going to do this? So my goal was like, I'm going to try the people that I see, I'm going to try and get them better faster than anyone else, and then out the door. And if they have a good experience, they'll tell their friends.
Good old word of mouth.
Yeah. And that's how it's been built, so I never got into the, 3 times a week for 3 months and, all of that. If I could see someone once and they never have to come back, perfect.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk about your practice, and because it is busy, you are in demand. And because the word of mouth has worked. Okay. So that's the thing. So tell us a little bit about the performance, health, spine, and sport therapy. So you're in Concord, but tell us because you have some other great practitioners who also work with you, right? That a lot of us locally know, Kanoa and Ryan and whatever. But just tell us a little bit about the business itself and like what kind of services and stuff you guys offer. And then I have some very specific questions for you.
Yeah. So from the very beginning, I always wanted to have some sort of multidisciplinary practice, right? I didn't want it to just be me. So early on, I knew that I wanted to incorporate physical therapy, maybe massage. I had an acupuncturist working, leasing space for me early on. Mm-hmm. So I've always thought that the more people to help one person, if I can't figure it out, maybe someone else can. We can communicate about it, say, this is what I'm seeing. They're not getting better. Can you have a look and see what you think? So I've always had that idea of working together with people of different, just different perspectives, right? And it's someday, I don't know, like, maybe we'll have an MD in that can, do injections or like, so kind of like a one-stop shop for good quality care.
Like it's almost like, and I could have the terminology wrong because I'm not in your business, but almost like for lack of like an institute or a clinic, like where you can like literally that one-stop shop. So it's like, oh, you come in and you need, because already the way that your practice is designed, like, let's just talk about the building. You have a couple of rooms off to the left where we call them, where you see your people. But then there's like a whole like PT area with like the rubber mats and the weights and the treadmill where you can check out runners' gaits or the way people are walking. And so you have this team of people. And I love what you said, because I'm all about helping people shift perspectives. And it's always about like, hey, having a different perspective, because your best thinking is what got you here right now, right?
Right.
So shifting, in my work, I would say shifting from a thought system of fear to a thought system of love. But what you guys are doing, and it goes back to this humility piece, this humbleness that you have, being able to say, I don't know.
Right.
And asking somebody else who has a different skill set or point of view or modality, healing modality, like that's how you're in a place that's based on healing and love versus ego.
Right.
And so you've brought in some really fantastic people who you get to work alongside every day as well.
Yeah, we got a great crew. 3 physical therapists, me, another chiropractor. We're pretty much maxed out right now for space. But yeah, it's been great. I mean, and I'll see someone come in that will see me for the first visit, and I'll say, okay, our goal right now is to get you out of pain as quickly as possible, but then you need to build some strength, increase your mobility.
Yes.
And I have people that are really good at that. I can do it too, but I have people that do that part better. So I think.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it. I mean, I think having the opportunity to utilize, different professions for the success of one patient, one client, whatever you want to call it, has been great.
Yeah, I think it's really fantastic. And also you have an amazing front desk crew. So your wife, Jen, works there, and I adore her too. So when you walk in, it's just a feel good spot. People are friendly. They're happy to see you all the time. It's organized, it's clean, it's nice. I just can't say enough about it. So look, if you're listening right now and you've got some back pain, you're suffering in some way physically, go see my guy. Because I'm telling you, he's going to help you out. But let's get into that, because one of the things that I saw when I was looking at all of your continuing education, these things, these skill sets. So when I come to see you, quote unquote, Mr. Chiropractor, we mostly do soft tissue work. It's not even like I don't even remember the last time you, quote unquote, really adjust. I'm doing air quotes for those of you who are listening, like, quote unquote, cracked me, adjusted me, as I would say, whatever. So you do two things. So ART, active release technology, soft tissue stuff, and then dry needling, which I'm fascinated by as well. So let's talk a little bit about that. And then I want to dive deep into who you most commonly see. Like, because if somebody's listening to this, because we'll probably title this something maybe on back pain. I don't know what we're going to call it yet, but somebody's going to be listening, and I want to dive deep into why that interests you so much, and then some of the things that you commonly see, and then maybe a few things that we can, some tips or helpful things for the listeners. But talk a little bit about, so you have your chiropractic, the bones, the adjusting, all that stuff. And then you have these other skill sets. So tell me, like, why AIT, why dry needling, and
well, to go back to the chiropractic manipulation, right? There is not everybody should have that, right? There are some people, so I adjust everybody in some form, right? So if I have a woman who is 68 years old, who I suspect has significant degenerative changes, arthritis in her neck, I'm gonna take a different approach, right? Like, I'm gonna mobilize the joints, loosen them up a bit, but I'm not gonna do that high velocity adjustment, because that's not the only tool that I have, right?
Yeah.
It's very important. And that my approach to someone with similar pain, who is, in their mid 30s, then we probably would do that adjustment, right? But it also depends on that person's prior experience with other chiropractors. Like, the big thing is, like, I once had my neck adjusted and it scared the shit out of me. Like, don't do that. I'm like, okay, don't worry about it. I won't do that. We got other things we can do.
So okay, wait, can we touch on that really quickly?
Sure.
So I use the word sin jokingly here. Okay. Do you sometimes feel like when somebody comes in to see you that you're like at the mercy of the sins of your fellow, like your previous brethren who have just done some shit? Like you said, like, if you don't give somebody a warning, like I remember the first time my neck was adjusted, I literally, my head was like, holy shit. Like, I was not expecting that. Right.
Yeah.
So, and there's gotta be some connection too. We often think about chiropractors as adjusting our bones, but it's the muscles, it's the nervous system, it's all these other things that are being affected by that. So sometimes, like, somebody's coming in and you're like, oh man, I've got to be extra on my best behavior because they've already seen somebody who's scared them, done some damage or whatever.
And it's funny. It's like, when I first got out of school and I was a chiropractor and I went out into the world, started my practice right away, I was starting to get that vibe of like, oh, he's a chiropractor. I've been to that before, right? I've seen chiropractors before. And in my mind, I'm like, but this is different, right? And so there was a certain point early on that I was like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. Like, this is not, I don't want to like be this person. So I looked into going back to physical therapy school. I looked into like, what would it take to be a nurse practitioner, to kind of do my own thing and just have a different approach. And now so I looked at those avenues, they closed for lots of reasons, but I wouldn't want to be anything else right at this point. So that's just, I don't know, that was something early on that I was like, I went through this phase of like, this is not what I want.
Well, it's not that what you didn't want, if I'm hearing you correctly, you always wanted to do what you're doing. What you
Yeah.
didn't want is the stigma and because there are people who literally think that chiropractors are quote unquote quacks. They're
Yeah.
like, oh, it's like bullshit. It's like a snake oil salesman. They're not really doing anything. Because people have, particular experiences. And then, but here's the thing, by the time they come to see you, if we go back to our word of mouth theory, it's because somebody they trust has referred them to you.
Right.
Or they're in enough pain that they're ready to give it another shot, or but so it's either highly recommended or I'm in need. And you have such a fantastic reputation. I have no doubt that people it's like, I got a guy. Here's who you need to go see. I say that all the time about you. But yeah, you're working against the grain of a larger cultural box, a label that got slapped on you. So what you didn't want is to be the guy that they're like, oh yeah, this guy. Oh yeah, he's a chiropractor, right?
Yeah,
and you're like, oh no, man, I just want to help people.
Yeah.
So, but you push through it.
And it's totally changed, right? Like referrals from orthopedists, MDs, like all that stuff that you wouldn't have thought would ever have happened. You build trust, right? And that's what happens.
Let's talk about that. So trust is key. I think in any relationship, when you are in some ways going to somebody in need, first of all, you're vulnerable. And so there's this position of power, right? You're the almighty, like, you know things that I don't know.
Right.
And I have to be vulnerable and I have to come in and I'm injured. And it's kind of like, please help me. And if I don't trust this guy, if people don't trust you, not only, first of all, they won't ever come back,
Right.
but then they're probably not going to do their follow-up care. So this is an off-topic thing, right? But tell me how you think about building trust with a client. Like, what's your approach maybe?
I think when I have someone come in for the first time, it's giving them space to talk. It is a lot of times you can just sense the anxiety a bit. Yeah. And there are times that this difficult person comes in, right? And I'm like, I'm going to be this guy's best friend at the end of this visit, right? He's going to love me. And it's not, but it's all about just listening and paying attention and thoroughly explaining what's going on, if I can, at that point, and then giving them like a way out, right? Like, this is not you forever. We can make some changes.
Okay, literally.
And if we don't make changes, these are our other options, right? But yeah, I'm going to be best friends with the person before they leave.
I just got emotional. I literally just felt myself tearing up because I see everything that I see so many things through the lens of, there's always going to be my yoga teacher brain, right? There's always going to be me looking at people's posture, how they stand, like whatever. That's always going to be in there. But I see so many things through the aspect of storytelling and spirituality. And you might push back against this. So you don't have to agree with me. I'm just telling you what I think. The work that you do, although it's heavily based in physicality, right? In the physical realm, in the physical body. And yes, there's the mental piece of it too, but you're doing deeply spiritual work, whether you think of it that way or not.
Right.
One of the things that I always say is one of the greatest ways that we show love is to pay attention. And part of the healing process, Brett, begins the moment when they step into your room and you start listening. That's when healing, the miracle is already on the way at that point, because here is somebody who cares, who listens, and who pays attention. Right there, you've created a possibility for healing and love to happen, which is so powerful. And everything you just said, I just felt myself welling up, because I've had, the only chronic condition I've ever had is irritable bowel syndrome, right? And that's its whole own thing. But when I think about people who are in chronic pain and what chronic pain leads to, whether that's drug use, addiction, lack of intimacy, lack of connection, irritability, not being able to be creative, not being able to move your body. When I think about what the desperation, like, there's so many things, and the fact that you help people when they're at their wit's end,
Yeah.
or when they're not able, and I haven't forgotten about, I'm going to be his best friend, because there's something in that as well. But the work that you do, and you're so humble. I don't think you're going to accept this, but like, do you understand like how important it is, this work that you do? Like, do you kind of get it?
It gives me joy. And I think that that's all that matters. So yeah, when I see, yesterday was a perfect example at a woman in who's has 2 small kids. She's been in back pain for over a year.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, we'll take care. We're going to fix it. We'll figure it out. If I can't figure it out, we'll find a way. And she started crying. And it was because she's been
Suffering.
kind of pushed off from one person to the next person, feeling hopeless, and like, this is never going to get better. So she's like, I had to call my primary care. Hopefully in a week or so I can get in. I'm like, all right, let's take care of this right now. I'm sending out for x-rays. And did I think that there was something massively wrong, or no? But it just gave her some confidence, right? It's like, okay, we're at least taking that step. If we need an MRI, we can get that. But in order to get an MRI, you got an x-ray first. So it was just like tears. She's like, I'm sorry. This has been really hard. I'm like, I got you. We'll take care of it. This is the end of it, right? This is the end of that.
Well, that's hope.
Year of pain. Yeah.
That's hope. Like, that's what you're administering, is like, I see you, I hear you, I care about you. We're going to do something about it. You're not just passing the buck. You're not just passing another person off. And so many people this day and age, Brett, just feel like they don't matter. So what you're telling people is what you're feeling matters. What's going on matters, and I'm gonna help you. And so let's talk about, I could talk to you for like hours about all of this, because there's more that's going on than just I'm adjusting people and helping them with their things. So tell me some of I know you say that you see a lot of people and you see a lot of trends, as you called it. I don't know what you meant by that, but I've heard you say this before. I see a lot of people in pain. I see a lot of trends, and you get asked a lot of the same questions, I imagine, or you get asked like, so what's one of the most common things you see? And then maybe let's drop a few, if we have them, some helpful tips for people, or not, like just ways that people can help themselves, some quick fixes to help, as you call it.
I mean, I would say, obviously, for me, the most common thing is low back pain, hip pain, neck pain, right? It's kind of what I do. If someone comes in, they're like, oh, my wrist kind of hurts. I'm like, I'm not really that good at that. So that's where, I've got other options for you. I'm like, I don't really know. Like, that's not my thing.
Okay,
shoulders,
so hips,
neck, low back.
You do shoulders too, because
of course.
So shoulders, hips, low back, and neck.
Yeah, like here.
Yeah, for those of you who are listening and not watching, he just kind of went from like chin, like neck level, down to his waist, his hips. Okay. All right, go ahead. So this is your area right here.
Yeah, right. Here, right. Not so much.
The limbs, the arms, I don't
know. Sorry, what was the question?
The question is some of the most common things that you see.
Yeah.
And some quick fixes to help, as you say.
Well, I think the quick fixes is tough. I think probably a better thing to kind of talk about a little bit would be like when to go see someone, right? I have people jump to our office that should have probably been in 6 months prior.
Okay.
I have some other people that come in way too soon. I have to say, it's cool. You're good. You can run through this. Like,
all right. So let's frame this as when to quote unquote push through pain versus when to seek help.
Yeah. I have everyone goes to the doctor at some point with pain, and they say the typical thing is, on a 0 to 10 scale, what is your pain level?
Sure.
Some people say 12, and I'm like, well, that's not an option. I know you're here talking to me, so it's not a 12. So I have to say, okay, on a 0 to 10 pain scale, right? Like, let's say 0 is no pain, 1, 2 is an awareness, 3, 4 is discomfort, and 5 is when your brain is like, okay, this hurts.
Yeah.
And then 10's like, we're going to an ER, right? Like, this is bad. These are bad. And usually what I tell people is like, you can work through 1s, 2s, 3s, some 4s maybe. If it gets to a 5, when your brain's like, this is painful, this hurts, even just a little bit, that's when you need to probably do something about it. You can give it some time, give it some rest, see if you can get it under control. But yeah, I think, and even when we see people with like an Achilles problem, right?
Yeah.
I'm okay if they run and it stays at like a 1, 2, 3, as long as it doesn't get worse.
Let's talk about this. So remember back in the day, because this is like a geographical, physical thing, mental. It's probably more of a mental thing. So New Englanders, East Coasters, we are notorious for suck it up and stuff it down. You're just going to push through it. And if it doesn't hurt, you're not gaining anything. Like all these things, right? There tends to be a mentality sometimes, not everybody, obviously, but this mentality of like seeking help, asking for help is weakness. I can figure this out, like all this stuff. So I remember when you and I did, P.S. by the way, our wicked popular, remember when we did our workshop together on self-adjustment, like in foam rolling and stuff. And so, I mean, that thing was packed to the gills. Everybody wanted in on it. And one of the things you had to reiterate several times, which goes to my point, is that, people will get on a ball or a foam roller and they just like, if it hurts, cram on that thing, rock on that thing, do the thing with the rolling pin thing, right? And you were like, no, if it's already inflamed, if it's already tender, whatever. So can you talk to, yes, here's this pain scale, but how about like what not to do? And I know, P.S., you guys, this is not quote unquote medical advice. Don't be getting like, use your common sense, but just in general, when you have something tender, sore, an Achilles thing, whatever, just maybe give people a little bit of awareness or self-love about like what not to do in those cases.
Yeah, I think one of the things I see the most, and this could be a hip issue, this could be an Achilles issue, it could be a low back issue. The standard for years is like, if it hurts, stretch it, right? Stretch it, really stretch it. So
like sciatica too. The impulse is my sciatica hurts, I'm going to stretch it.
Right. And so the thing about soft tissue, whether that's muscle or tendon or nerve for that matter, right, is that if you have like, let's say the hamstring, you strain your hamstring, right? And the fibers are like this, you strain it, it pulls and separates, and then it's tight and it's sore. But if you're down, like touching your toes and you continue pulling that tissue, it could slow the healing process down a little bit. So there are some instances that it's okay to stretch through some awareness or discomfort, but you don't want to stretch through pain, or you don't want to like recreate your symptoms, right? Like if your hip hurts,
yes,
and you're like hammering it up against your chest and you're like, oh, that's the pain, that's my pain, I'm going to stretch it out. It's very likely that you're causing more problems.
So when you have something that's already inflamed and cranky and uncomfortable, getting in there with like a Theragun or a foam roller or a ball
so some of that I think is okay, right? Because you're not lengthening the tissue. I would say like if there's a point right in your butt, right, that people get on the ball and they're like, when I hit this one spot,
it's like
it hurts so good. I'm like, well, that's your sciatic nerve, and you're just putting more compression on it. Like you're okay to work around it, but like don't hammer that.
Don't hammer it. Yeah. So try to be smart. Yeah. I just think that it's so interesting how, we come into this world in a body, but there's like no instruction manuals. No. And most people are like not always sure like what to put in it, how to take care of it, like when rest versus push through it. It's like, so having somebody like you where you can come to and say, hey, this is what's happening. Like so often, like I know my body pretty well, like I'm pretty aware, but even still, what ends up happening when I come to see you, it's when I've been doing a repetitive behavior for so long, like sitting with my legs crossed or going from 0 to 60, right? That it's like, it's actually my body's way. Like, let's talk about this. When pain sometimes, I think of pain as like, helpful because it's giving you feedback. Like, hey, you're doing something that hurts, right? So can we talk about our relationship with pain a little bit, or what you think about pain?
Yeah, I mean, pain is not bad. Like, it's not a bad thing unless, it's keeping you awake at night, right? You're obviously having an effect on how you feel the next day. You're exhausted, you're fatigued, and every night's, you're in pain. So in situations like that, you have to deal with that. But pain it's part of being a human, right? It's going to happen. It's going to happen to all of us. And it's okay to a certain point, right? And I think that's where, for me, the management with people. So if someone comes in with pain of whatever, it's managing that. It's helping them, guide them through it, what they can and can't do. Other suggestions. If I see something that I know just from clinical experience is not going to change, like someone comes in with an arthritic knee and I kind of flex it and bend it, and they're jumping off the table, or a hip, it's like your hip, it's arthritic. Like, I hate to tell you that, but like this one, see how this one moves? This one's really nice and loose. And then this one hurts when I push it in certain positions.
Yes.
Like that's arthritis. We can send you out for an x-ray. It's not going to change anything. It's just the way it is. But if someone I'll do my best to teach this person how to avoid the positions, movements that are making their symptoms worse. And oftentimes, for the people that are stretching through it, right? Oftentimes, if we pull that out, pain level comes down. And it's just educating them on that. If it doesn't change, it's like, we got to go to ortho, right? Your options either live with this and just manage it on your own, but you're losing sleep at night.
Quality of life.
Yeah. So if I see something like that right away, it's like, we got to look into this a little bit deeper. I'm not saying have a hip replacement, but let's maybe try an injection and see if that helps.
An injection of like
corticosteroid. Yeah.
Okay. So you said two things there that I want to jump off of. When you say ortho, for those of people who are listening, what do you mean when you say that? It's
orthopedics.
Okay. So orthopedics deal with basically
joints and bones and muscles and
Perfect. Okay. So
they're there to fix major problems.
Okay. So when it's out of your scope, like, your lane and you're like, this is not my lane. So let me refer you to somebody who I think can actually help you. Okay. Number one. Number two, you said, I don't want to have to tell you this, right? Like, but this is arthritis. So I would like to hear about, like, what's it like when sometimes you have to have difficult conversations with patients? Is that one of those things that you might consider a difficult conversation?
I think it used to be, but now it's just it's truth, right? Like, I had someone the other day, she gave me her whole history, and right away I'm like, she's got an arthritic hip. That's what's going on. Like, and so then I do the exam, and she said, I've been to 4 chiropractors. They keep adjusting my hips and it hasn't changed. I'm like, well, it's not going to, right? This is a structural issue. Here are your options, right? And she wasn't in a lot of pain. She wasn't losing sleep at night. But I had to tell her, I'm like, this is not an alignment issue. Your hip's arthritic.
So can you tell, for those of us what does it mean when something is arthritic? Like, what's really going on? I mean, I know you're not, like, just in general, like, what does that mean?
So if I see someone with a hip, right, issue, what I say is, right, it's a ball and socket joint.
Yes.
Right. Your left hip has this much space, so your hip can move around really well.
So
right?
Those of you who are listening, he's basically got his hand in the air, like, and he's using his other fist right underneath it. Like, if you could imagine a little ball and a socket.
Ball and socket. Yeah.
And so in the left version, there's a good gap there. There's some space there.
Yeah, there's space. The hip's moving well. The other side, it looks like this, right? More compact.
So that top
lost
piece
joint
is
space.
right on top of it.
Yeah, it could be close. It could be close.
Yeah.
And, you know, people often say, oh, it's bone on bone. Yeah, in some cases it can be, but yeah, it's clear in exam oftentimes that that person has arthritis, and that's a major pain generator for people.
So arthritis, does it mean that, is arthritis like a lack of space? I guess that's what I'm trying to get at. Does it mean that there's a lack of space? Does it mean that the bones are, I always think of arthritis as like cranky joints, but I always think of it as inflammation. Am I wrong in that thinking?
No, that's true. But like, there's usually decreased joint space.
No.
Wherever that is, decreased joint space. And oftentimes when your body senses some sort of instability in a joint, it builds more bone, right? So sometimes you get these like little spurs and things like that. They're contributing to some of the pain as well.
I remember one of the first times when I was on the table and, you know, we were doing in yoga, we'd call it wind relieving pose or whatever, pulling one knee up towards, you know, my chest or two knees. And I would always be like, yeah, when I do that, that like does this thing. And you would say to me, yeah, well, stop doing that.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, oh, but like, that's like, and this is what I see a lot in the yoga world. You know, we could talk about like things that we see that make us crazy or whatever. It's like the job isn't to adapt the person to adapt. Yeah. So like a lot of times we think of a pose as being static and it's like, I'm going to make my body do this pose. I'm like, we're not in service to the pose. This is about the person and allowing your body to work within that range. But for so long, I would just be like I remember when I first started doing yoga, like back at BU, like when I was 19 or whatever, and I would like pull my knees into my chest and I'd be like, oh, that kind of catches on that right side. I'd be like, fuck it. Just keep, you know.
Yeah, keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it made me laugh when you first said to me, I remember I did a post one time about you and I said, yeah, I went to see Brett. I was in pain and nobody told me. And I go, remember when you were a little kid and you'd go up to your parents and you'd be like, Ma, it hurts when I do this. And they would say, well, stop doing that.
Right.
Like, that's pretty much the medical advice that I got, you know?
Yeah.
So that's really great. Okay. So I love your answer. I want to highlight this because I didn't respond right away. Having difficult conversations with patients, you said, well, really right now, it's just about telling them the truth.
Yeah.
Who doesn't like, thank you. Because I know I have friends, I've known people who have felt like medical mysteries. They felt like people don't know what's wrong with me. And it's just such a relief. Even sometimes if it's, I don't know the solution yet, just to be told something, just to be told like, this is what it could be. This is what I'm hearing, like, or this is the truth. This is what I'm seeing. Even that can be such a relief.
Totally. Yeah. 100%.
Okay.
Because this, like the woman dealing with the hip issue that went to the 3 chiropractors.
Yeah.
It's been, you know, I just finished writing her note the other night and it's been present since 2014. Right. And so now it's just like, here's what it is. And she's like, oh, well, that's helpful, you know. Like,
isn't that just to know?
Yeah. So don't do these 3 things and you should be better. You're not going to increase that range of motion by much, but at least the pain level comes down. I
love that you deal with people on that one-to-one basis and that you're really interested in serving. Like, you know, it's so easy. Like one of the things I can't stand in my industry is like, and whatever, people know me that I just kind of speak my mind, but it's like 3 quick tips to blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, look, I am never going to do I shouldn't say never. I will probably never do a thing that's like 3 ways to be more spiritual. Like, I'm just not going to do that. So I like that you really listen for what each individual person is presenting with. And it's why, like, you're not on here like, okay, let's just give them 3 quick tips for back pain. You know, it's like, no, because every situation in person, age, background, what they've put their bodies through, like all these things, right, make a difference.
Yeah. And you see patterns for sure, right? And then sometimes you see the same patterns over and over and over.
In the culture, you mean, in a bunch of different people? Yeah.
Right. So you have like, I would say just in my mind, how I see it is like 3 different types of lower back pain. And I'm not talking about disc herniations, or I'm talking about the motion movements that make symptoms worse. right? Arching back is a pain
Extension.
generator, right? Flexion, rounding is a pain generator. And then you have the people that have instability, right? Like there's instability in the joint. So quick, sudden movements are uncomfortable. So, and all these people have patterns. They have very similar histories. You know, I ask questions about, someone will say, oh, it hurts when I sit for a long time. And I'm like, okay. Does it hurt when you're sitting, or does it actually hurt when you stand up from sitting? They're like, oh, it's when I stand up. I'm like, okay, that's totally different, you know?
Yeah. So
it's feeding them like a little information of just my experience to help navigate a bit.
Yeah. You asked me that question actually last time I came to see
I did.
Yeah. You're like, okay. So I said, I'm probably sitting too much because I'm working at my computer writing or whatever. And you're like, yeah, but does it hurt when you're just sitting there? I'm like, no, when I'm sitting there, it's fine. It's when I stand up and go to a walk and I'm like, oh, Jesus. Oh, and you're like, okay, that's different. And I was like, okay. So what, do you think, you know how people say sitting is the new smoking? Like, do you find that most people okay, let's talk about this. Are you seeing a lot of neck humps from people being on their phones a lot? Like, are you seeing any patterns since technology, sitting for computer work and these little devices?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, neck pain for being on the computer for long periods. A lot of times that's an ergonomic setup, right? And what I tell people often is, this is just a good example, right? Like you can go to a chiropractor, you can do PT, you can get injections, you can do all of these things. But if the motion or the pattern that's making your symptoms worse does not change, it's gonna come back, right?
Really?
And so that is like what everything I do is built on, is like identifying what is this that's making you worse? What are you doing? Are you typing out like this with your hands way out? Are you holding your arms up against gravity for 8 hours a day? Well, no kidding, your neck hurts, right? So we have to bring the keyboard closer. So that's a huge part of what I do, right? Is really just identifying the patterns of people are making things worse for themselves without even knowing it.
Oh, Jesus, dude, you just described my whole business. Yes. Getting out of our own way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So assessing by asking questions, but a person also has to be aware enough of themselves and their environment to be able to report back to you.
Right.
This is what's going on. These are the patterns that I'm seeing, because, you know, it's like I usually say we are the reason that we find ourselves where we are.
Right.
And so, and what you're saying is there's no the quick fix. It's not like, oh, take a pill or do this. It's, I need you to participate in the role of your own healing. You need to be proactive in your own healing.
Yeah. Like just a great example that one of the things I see a lot, and we can go back to the sitting, is the sitting, the new smoking. You know, one of the things that I see is like the extension, right? We talked about leaning back, arching your back.
Yeah.
You jam the joints, like the facet joints in there, which are the, you know, where the two vertebrae come together. And that's a painful pattern. But what people don't realize often is that when they stand and they're on their feet for long periods, they're actually standing with their kind of abdominal area kind of opened up and their back arched, right? It's called that anterior pelvic tilt, or a increased lordosis of the lower back.
Yeah. It's like sticking your butt out, a little duck butt a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It hurts when I stand for more than 10 minutes. I just have to teach that person how to stand differently, right? Like they're in their own way. They're like, oh, it feels weird when I do that. But if I have them stand, I change their pelvic position,
you did that to me.
Create some space. They're like, oh, when I rotate my pelvis like that, when I stand, my pain goes away.
You're like, wait, I know, I need to be very clear for the audience. He's not saying this, but this is me in my head when I hear, no shit, Sherlock. You're like, right. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock.
But the thing is, like, people don't know where to get relief.
Exactly.
Right? They don't know the position to put their body in to say, okay, this actually feels pretty good. I should stay in this position rather than the one that hurts.
Yeah. You said that to me. You're like, so when you stand, you kind of, and you told me, you're like, you have a back or a body that does not really love extension. Mm-hmm. And because whenever I do it in an extreme way, right? I get that, that like thing in my lower back. And we talked about this, and I think this would be helpful for some people. Call it a weak spot, call it a previously injured spot. Do we have places in our body that tend to be more prone to maybe something happening if it's a previous site of injury? Or do you think all things can kind of, am I
Yeah,
clear
I
in my
think I know what
question?
you're talking about. There's always that. So the number one risk of injury is previous injury, like always, right? So if you've injured your back before, you do have a better chance of doing that again in the future. But like, it doesn't have to be like that. And it's not always like that. You know, I will often see people that come in, you know, Bob comes in, I'm like, Bob, I haven't seen you in a couple of years. What's going on? He's like, you remember that thing? My back, it's back, it came back. So it definitely happens. And it's all about structure, right? Like some people have structural issues, whether it's stenosis or arthritic changes, you know, certain scoliosis, whatever it is. Some people have really significant structural issues that, you know, you can make them more comfortable, but sometimes it is.
Can I ask you a question? Because you mentioned structure and this idea just popped into my head. So in yoga, we used to talk about, like, when we're doing a standing pose, at least, that it all begins in the feet, right? So do you think that whether you're flat-footed, high arch, do you think a lot of the way that the body is stacked on top of each other, does it start where you make contact with the earth? Is that a fair assessment or no? I just want
to. That is a fair assessment. However,
I wanted the however. That's what go ahead.
However, because you have flat arches doesn't mean that it's causing your back pain.
Gotcha.
Right. If you want, let's say because we talked about the pain when you go into extension and arch your back. If you want to fix that, you have to address that first, right? And then if there's issues, then you work down the chain a little bit. But yeah, that the flat feet, the overpronation, it's gray area, really, right?
Well, like, it makes me think of that song we learned as kids, right? The ankle bone's connected to the shin bone's connected to the knee bone's connected to the whatever. So you start to think like, okay, then there's the fascia, right? All that connective tissue, all this stuff. So, you know, it makes you just, I actually find the human body a total wonder. Like, I just think the fact that I'm like, do you know how many things can go wrong? It's a miracle that we're up usually, like walking around and driving cars and like doing stuff. There are so many moving bits and pieces and parts.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so, you know, the foot bone's connected to the ankle bone. There's something called the joint by joint approach. And a good way to look at that building block is that I think it was Mike Boyle actually that put this together, but I think it was him, and this is maybe a decade ago. But the foot itself craves stability, right? That's what it wants. The ankle above wants stability, right? So you can see the people that are flat foot or overpronating, right? The foot wants stability. The ankle needs mobility.
Yeah.
The knee, stability. The hip, mobility.
Fascinating.
Low back, stability. Yeah. So it's just this building block of.
Yeah. All right. I love all this. Okay. We only have a couple of minutes. So
I'm good for a little bit.
Okay. Here's the thing. And you can take a pass on these questions if you want to. Okay. What are some of the things in your industry right now that you think you and your fellow brethren are really getting right? Like, what's some of the new treatments coming out that you really feel are effective or evidence-based? Anything that lights you up besides ART, besides dry needling?
Yeah. There is a few things that we have been trying to incorporate in our clinic. One in particular that's been pretty awesome. We've had the machine for about a year, but it's called Shockwave.
Okay, tell us about
it. So there's a lot of great published research out right now. And what it is, it's this like gun that you hold up to someone's tissue. So it's most beneficial for chronic tendinopathies. Tendinopathy is a generic word for tendonitis or tendinosis, right?
Yeah.
So if someone has it's most been researched with plantar fasciitis, Achilles tendonitis. So it's used for those people that have tried everything, have struggled, and have not had any success. So
Is it
this,
like a wave, a light wave or something? What is it?
so it's air pressure waves, like pressure waves through this gun that goes into the tissue. And it's like this tap, 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 tap kind of, sound. It's pretty loud. And the idea is you bring that intensity up. So the patient has like a 6 out of 10, like it's not very comfortable. And that creates like blood flow into that area. So it's almost like a stimulation of the tissue, because a lot of those tendons, the plantar fascia, there's not a lot of blood supply. It's not very vascular. So finding a way to increase that blood flow is huge. So usually you treat, 3 or 4 times consistently. And then within 5 or 6 weeks following the initial treatment is when you start noticing some changes. So I had someone come down from Lubbock, Maine, 5 hours for this, because they were looking everywhere, treatment for it, and they can't find it. And then yesterday, someone from Essex Junction, Vermont. So that's, they're coming a long way for it.
I love it.
And it's been pretty cool. Yeah. We're still kind of new to it a little bit, but we're seeing some great results with people that have just not gotten anywhere.
So, all right, I have a flip question to this, but I just want to ask you. So like, what makes you decide, like, so you're the guy, at least it seems to me, please correct me. Because again, I go back to your list of continuing ed and all the things that you do. You love to learn. You're excited and passionate about this field that you're in. So what makes you go like, all right, because I know a machine like that probably isn't cheap. So I'm going to make this investment. So are you like constantly reading journals, going to things where you like, how do you decide like, this is a therapy that I trust or believe in enough that I'm going to bring it into my thing? So how do you find these things?
Well, it took me 2 years to finally purchase it. Yeah, I'm slow to things just in general, but I want to make good decisions. I want to be able to offer someone an option, right? For plantar fasciitis, they've done everything and nothing's worked, right? So it's like, what else can we offer? Is there anything else? And I was starting to refer out for it.
Yeah.
And those people were coming back like, thank you so much. It was so helpful. That shockwave.
Like,
that was amazing. I'm like, all right, that's it. We're getting one.
All right. Well, all right. Hey, so while we're on that, because it got me thinking about that. Okay. So now you're bringing in this machine and this modality and whatever. Do you have any kind of dream or vision? I think it's really powerful to speak things out into the universe. And if you're like, I'm not ready to talk about that, that's fine. But you have kind of not outgrown your space, but you're bumping up against the edges. Do you ever think about expanding or having more locations or having a bigger footprint or a larger building or something like that?
There's always room for growth. Yeah. I have all kinds of fantasies, right? Of things, how I see, like at the end, how I see things. And it's just chipping away at it one day at a time, moving
in the direction of your dream.
Yeah. But like I said, having the one-stop shop, having the place where you have really good providers,
yes,
whatever their credentials are, having a place where people can work out and train in a safe environment, right? With supervision from physical therapists or chiropractor, you know what I mean? Like having some really high quality supervision, especially for people that get stuck. Like I have the shoulder pain every time I go back to CrossFit, it's like comes back. It's like, okay, what can we do differently? And being able to manage that situation better. So this person continues to get their workouts in, but maybe we find, other approaches.
See, that's one part of the dream you've never told me before. Like if you had it sounds like a gym, but like more than that, right? So
a gym for 45-year-olds and older.
Yeah. Like functional fitness.
Yeah, right.
Right? Like really smart, having somebody keep an eye on you, because I'm sure no knock on CrossFit or whatever, because there's 1,000 ways to hurt yourself at the gym.
Yeah. CrossFit's, it's got its pros and cons, and it all depends on The coaches, always.
Thank you, because I was going to ask you that, but thank you for
Yeah.
answering. All right. So I love this vision because that's a new piece of it. And look, here's the thing. I already just see it as done. I'm just going to hold it. I'm going to hold the vision in my mind as done. Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's powerful. Okay. This is kind of, again, you can take a pass on this or not. What are some things in your industry or your field that kind of piss you off, or you don't like, or are there any trends or things that you're seeing that you're like, yeah, I don't know about that, or I got my own opinions on that, or whatever?
Yeah. I mean,
Feel like sharing one or two before we go?
like my industry, if we just call it chiropractic, right?
Yes.
And that's not how I see really myself,
Yes.
honestly, but like it's a touchy one. It's the groups, and maybe I could offend some people, but like it's
okay.
groups that want to see you 3 times a week for 6 months, and then 2 times a week for the next 3 months. And they're not, in my opinion, they're addressing the curvature of the spine, right? And that's what they're trying to fix, but they're not addressing like the actual problem. And so I think that's in the chiropractic profession, there are like 2 very different chiropractors. There's everything in between too.
Sure.
So you have those chiropractors that practice like that is their, we don't take insurance. It's this much money you have to pay. You have to sign a contract.
Yes, I have been to those offices.
Yeah.
I have been to those offices.
So there's that. And then you have, another group that wants to work with the medical community. But not like, but give a different alternative, right? Like this is a very different alternative. And if we need to use the other sort resources, then we can do that.
Yeah. I mean,
So I don't know. I think that it's just not how I practice.
I appreciate you.
And to
being
each
candid.
their own, right? And no knock on anybody. Everybody has the right to do and practice how they want to practice.
I agree.
I think that's where the common voice for our profession, there's no single voice, right? And I think that's difficult.
You think it's difficult?
It becomes difficult. Right.
What do you mean by that?
That there's not one united voice. Yeah.
Because it's almost like why people, when I say people say to me, do you still teach yoga? And I say, yeah, I'll always, what yoga really means and what it really is will always be a part of my life. I occasionally, come out and teach classes and stuff, and I have a blast and I love it. But what I started to see happen in the overall became like a fucking circus, man.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'm just kind of slowly moonwalking out of this, whatever this shit show is becoming, because I started to see too much overall. And I started feeling like to be called a yoga teacher didn't feel like, it's kind of what you're saying with like, quote unquote, chiropractor, right? I was like, I don't know about this label or this box and what the public generally has come to think of this thing. And I've always just liked doing my own thing. I think it's one of the things I love about you is that even though you're not just a quote unquote, and I don't mean that negatively, right?
No, of course
not. A chiropractor. You have these other points of view, these other scopes, these other interests, you have other, you have all these different aspects that you bring into to your particular healing modality. And I think what most people are attracted to is not just you as a human being, your energy, then your knowledge. It's that you do kind of take a more holistic, more well-rounded, I would say, approach to things. Yeah. Which is one of your superpowers. It is. All right. Is there any question that I didn't ask you that you wished I asked you? Is there anything else that you would just want to leave a listener or somebody who, whatever, might be in pain or somebody who's curious? And we'll talk about how to get in touch with you and stuff. But is there anything else that's maybe on your mind or in your heart that you want to share before I let you go?
Yeah. If you don't find the right person to help you with your pain, discomfort, whatever the issues are, and you're not satisfied, like keep looking.
Yeah, that's one of the
Is
things I
worse.
wanted to say. How do you determine if you have the right clinician helping you?
It's just a connection, I think. I think a lot of it, the connection, there's got to be some empathy. You can't be rushed. You can't, you have to have your story heard, which is getting more and more difficult, right? Especially with people that accept insurance and all that. It's hard, but good people are out there, right? And it's not, you hear a lot of negative about the medical community, right? About not spending enough time, not listening. And you got to find someone that will do those things.
Dude, that's like the perfect. And you don't have to look that far, you guys, because he's right here. You're looking at his face right now. So if you live in the Concord, New Hampshire area, look, here's the beautiful thing about New England. Let me say this. You can drive to like 5 different states in one day. So if you're in Maine, Vermont, Massachusetts, whatever, and you're suffering and you're in pain and you want one of the best. I was the yoga teacher for the Manchester Monarchs professional hockey team for like 5 years. And I used to talk to people all the time and say, if you're guys, like, I'm like, you guys probably have a guy, but if you need a guy, go see my guy.
Yeah.
And all the triathletes that I've worked with over the years, anybody who ever has having some sort of a pain that's not going away from massage or stretching or whatever, I always, always, always send them to you. And so I'm going to do the same thing here. So if you can hear the sound of my voice and you are suffering, or you have a loved one, right? If you have a loved one who's in any kind of pain, here's an idea that just popped into my head too, because I don't know. What do you think about adjustments for babies or children? Do you think little kids need that? Because I've been seeing some videos lately of people adjusting like little people. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't get it.
Excellent.
I think babies are perfect, right? When they come out. This is interesting you bring this up, because this is a question I've been getting more recently. Like, do you adjust babies? I'm like, no, like, of course not. For me, it's like, no, why would you do that?
Yeah.
So, we could spend a whole nother podcast on that.
Maybe I'll have to have you come back.
But I just think that, like, unless your baby is colicky or has a torticollis, like their neck is all twisted and stuck, yes, like there's an option for that. But if your baby is functioning fine, I don't get adjusted a lot. Like if my neck hurts, I go see my guy right next door. He takes care of me. So maybe I get adjusted 2-3 times a year.
Canoa.
But it's when it hurts.
Yeah.
So I don't know. No, I don't love that.
All right. Thank you for saying that. Because I see, because that's the thing. Here's the other thing too. This day and age with the internet, and anybody with any knucklehead with a phone can like put content out. And I just see things sometimes like, again, and no offense, I have friends, people I think are lovely human beings who are also in your kind of field. And there's like, you see I don't know what those things are called, the punchy things, the things that
Activator.
Yeah.
Sometimes we like to call it the clicker.
The clicker. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm like, okay. Like, so, and when you're just a regular person who's not like, didn't go to school for this shit, you're like, I don't know if this is hocus pocus or if this really helps or whatever. Mm-hmm. So, you have to use your discernment, and really is what he said really matters. Find somebody who listens, who pays attention, who's empathetic. You can tell it's an energetic hit too. It needs to be a good fit. So like they would say in like 12-step programs, when somebody first becomes sober, they would say something like, go to at least 6 meetings, like find your meetings, find your people or whatever. And I said that about yoga. I used to say, if you come to a yoga place, check out a few different studios, a few different teachers, a few different times, class time, same thing, right? But when you find your person, man, it's like striking gold. And that's how I feel. That's how I feel about you, my friend. So just thank you so much. So you guys, if you want to get in touch with Brett, all his links and stuff will like be down there, but the website is performancehealthnh.com. Okay. And then there's also a Facebook page. And then on Instagram, it's performancehealth_, right, NH. And that's how you find these guys. And Brett, just thank you so much for being on the show. It was such a pleasure. You're welcome. And hey, you better start building that new building or getting more space. Because I'm telling you, people are going to hear this and they're going to be like, and you're already so in demand. And I think that the way people appreciate you, respond to you, and love you and your team and your crew and your front desk and Jen and everybody speaks for itself. So I hope that you can receive the glory and the bounty of all the love that you put out into the world.
Great. Thank you for having me. And you do great things. I'm here because of you.
Thank you, sweetheart. I appreciate you. All right, everybody. As I always end the show, say the same thing. I say it because I mean it. Okay. Wherever you go, may you leave the people, the place, the animals, and the environment better than how you found it. Wherever you go, may people be happier for you having been there. Wherever you go, may you be a blessing. Bye.
Hey, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of The Karen Kenney Show. I super duper appreciate your time, friendship, and support. And look, if something that I shared from my heart today somehow landed in yours, I'd love to hear about it. So please tag me on Facebook or Instagram or IG stories or wherever the cool kids are hanging out these days, and let me know what your favorite part was or what you found most helpful. You can find me over at Karen Kenney Live. That's Karen, KenneYlive. And if you're digging what I'm saying and you want to hear more, I'd be wicked grateful if you could go to iTunes and subscribe and leave a review, because you guys, that's how you'll help me to keep spreading the love. And if you can think of someone that could benefit from hearing this episode, please share it with them. I'd also love to stay connected with you. So if the feeling is mutual, please go to KarenKenney.com/freebie and download my free guide to building your spiritual team. Until next time, my brothers and sisters, keep living in the fearless flow. Know that I see you, I appreciate you, and I love you. And wherever you go, may you be a blessing.